Hello and welcome back. I'm Odi, your operatic Italian tutor. Today we're going to be analysing a beautiful aria, a very well-known piece, and a very well-loved piece. Se tu m'ami, se sospiri, formerly attributed to Pergolesi, but now formerly attributed to Parisotti. Now, let's read a bit of context, because remember, that's always important. If you have no clue what you're singing about, you just can't sing. So, this is a light, teasing 18th century aria in which you tell a suitor that you understand his feelings of love for you. However, you also suggest that you might perhaps be interested in more than one pretty flower. Why not? The text is very playful, while the music can sound serious, so there definitely is a contrast here. It's important, as I said, to show the contrast and almost mocking nature of the text. So let's read slowly, and then we'll have a look at the translation. So let's read the original Italian. Se tu m'ami, se tu sospiri, or se sospiri in some versions, but again, it matters little. Se tu ami, se tu sospiri, sol per me, gentil pastor, ho dolor dei tuoi martiri, ho diletto del tuo amor. Ma se pensi che soletto io ti debba riamar, pastorello, sei soggetto facilmente a t'ingannar. Bella rosa porporina, oggi Silvia sceglierà, con la scusa della spina, doman poi la sprezzerà. Ma degli uomini il consiglio io per me non seguirò, non perché mi piace il giglio, gli altri fiori sprezzerò. Again, a very fun text. Now, let's have a look at what is going on here. There are a lot of difficulties here, a lot of sounds which are very often pronounced very poorly. And I think that Se tu m'ami is a very characteristic a very characteristic aria, which is misunderstood because most singers don't know what they're singing here. And they don't realize that the nature of the text is really mocking. You're making fun of this poor pastorello, this poor little shepherd boy, who says, supposedly says that, he loves you or whatever. But the music itself has to, convey the meaning with the way you're pronouncing it. I'm sorry, yes, the way you're pronouncing it as well, but the way you're saying it, the meaning behind it, the intention. So let's have a look. Firstly, a little note here. In Italian, you would read this, se tu m'ami, se sospiri. The music, however, does se tu m'ami. So the accent is on se tu m'ami. It's not se tu m'ami, it's se tu m'ami. But here, the music violates the rules of the language, and it's important to know. Because if you say, se tu m'ami, it makes no sense. But rather, se tu m'ami. The real accent here is mami, se tu m'ami, if you love me. So, let's read the translation. If you love me, if you sigh only for me, kind shepherd, I have sorrow for your sufferings. I have delight in your love. But, because there always has to be a but if you think that you alone I must love you in return, little shepherd, you are prone easily to be deceived. And there's a change of mood here. It's a different topic. A lovely crimson rose today Silvia will choose. So, in theory, you, the lady, Silvia, are saying these things. With the excuse of the thorn, tomorrow, then, she will scorn it. But of the mended advice, I for myself will not follow, not because I like the lily, that I will scorn the other flowers. So what's going on here? Let's analyze a little bit more, because, again, these literal translations are good for understanding the words themselves, but, of course, if you don't speak the language, you kind of get lost. So, if you love me, if you sigh only for me, kind shepherd, I feel for you, I understand your pain, I would like your love, but if you believe that I must love you in return exclusively and only you, then, little shepherd, you're prone to being easily deceived. So essentially, what are we saying here? Just because you love me doesn't mean, and you love me and me only, doesn't mean that I, Sylvia, have to love you back and no one else. No. A lovely crimson rose today Sylvia will choose. But, essentially, or the excuse of the thorn, tomorrow she will then scorn it. So what's going on here? Today, Sylvia found a beautiful rose, a crimson rose, but, tomorrow she'll find an excuse. So, for example, there's a thorn on it. What a big surprise. Who would have ever thought that roses have thorns? So what Sylvia is saying here, well, today I might like you. Yes, you're very pretty. But tomorrow, I'll find some random excuse and I'll just, ciao, bye-bye, I'll find someone else. Tomorrow, then she will scorn it. So today you're good for me. Tomorrow, who knows? No guarantees. And, to drive the point home even further, but I will not follow the advice of men. Not because I simply like the lily, must I scorn the rest of the flowers. So what does that mean? Well, just because I like you doesn't mean I can't like other people. So that's the point here. As you can see, the texture, the nature of the text is extremely mocking. Imagine someone coming to you and telling you, "Oh yes, I love you. I'm in love with you," and then you say, "Oh yes, you're very pretty. Yes, I could love you today, but no guarantees for tomorrow." You understand how the music sounds much more serious than what the text actually is, right? So it's very important that perhaps not necessarily with your, well, you could, with the way you say things, you need to be a little bit more, it needs to hurt a little bit. And perhaps with your facial expressions as well, because let's not forget, this is part of the performance as well. So let's have a look at some vocabulary and grammar notes. Sol, solo, solamente, perhaps in this case as well, or just solo. So this is the poetic and truncated form of solo. As we've seen before, you tend to omit the final vowel. Martiri. Martiri, as you can hear that martyr, martyrdom, martiri is suffering, torment. In this case, it's exaggerated and it's trying to say that, yes, I feel your pain, what you're going through. Amor. You will find this word in every single opera at least 15,000 times, because there's always love involved. So this is the poetic form of amore. Truncated, you cut off the final, you omit the final I, so it becomes amor. Soletto, you, alone. Now, etto is a way that you make diminutives in Italian. So one of the ways, at least. So solo, soletto, alone, little you, alone. This is mocking. Riamar, which would be riamare, to love again, love back. Again, riamar, no e alla fine. at the end, sorry. T'ingannar. Ingannare means to deceive, or to trick, or fool. So, sei soggetto facilmente a t'ingannar. You're easily deceived. So again, the truncated form. Porporina, crimson, bright red. A very, very beautiful word for a very beautiful color. Sprezzerà. It's the future form of scorn, sprezzare. And careful, sometimes you might hear someone say spezzare, which actually works perfectly fine in this context as well. Because if we go back, so spezzare means to break. So in this case, even if you make a mistake and if someone pronounces it wrong, it still works perfectly fine. Where is it? Yes. So today, Sylvia will choose a lovely crimson rose, but tomorrow, with the excuse of there being a thorn, she will then break it. So, yes, you're pretty fun today, but no, tomorrow probably not. So that's the point. And then, finally, a very beautiful word, giglio, lily. Now, let's have a look at some pronunciation notes. There's a lot to say in this piece, and it's very good practice. So, diletto, to, it's a long T. Now, it's not diletto, it's not aspirated. It's not diletto, diletto. Diletto. Pay close attention to my mouth. Diletto. You prepare the t, so you place your tongue, t, and you just hold it there for longer. Soletto, again, long t. Also, as a little note to my English-speaking friends, be careful. The Italian t is more front compared to the English t. It's a little bit more on the back. So if you say diletto, diletto, t, diletto, t, diletto, t, it's much more here. So careful with that. Debba, debba. Again, it's a long sound. So for long consonants, you hold the debba, ba. This is a voiced consonant. So you have the voicing, which already happens. Deb. Yes, of course, you can't do this forever, but debba, b. Pastorello, little shepherd. Long L again. So l, pastorello, lo. Soggetto. Two geminates in a row. So careful here. As we've said before, if you have a G, which is followed by a front vowel, you get a J. And in this case, it's a long J. So soggetto. Not soggetto, not soggetto, soggetto. Same story. Ingannar. N. Ingannar. Not inganar. No, that sounds Spanish. Ingannar. And speaking of which, it's very important to make these geminates are one of the most characteristic features of Italian. So it's very important that you pronounce them correctly. And as I've said before, they help you when you sing. They make everything much more easy. Okay? It just places the voice and everything in the correct spot. So please pronounce them properly for your ease of singing. Now, sceglierà. This is a little bit of a tricky one. So, when you have an SC, so SC, followed by an E, in this case an E, a front vowel, you get sh, sceglierà. Then, when you have a GL, so GL, followed by an E, an I, it gives l. not sceglierà. No, absolutely not. Sceglierà. It takes a little bit of practice, yes, but it's very important because this is everywhere, this sound. You can immediately tell when someone, is not convincing. Or if someone is very convincing, but you finally hear the little sceglierà. What a shame. So pronounce this properly. Della, again, long L as we saw earlier. Sprezzerà. It's not sprezzerà. Sprezzerà. Okay? Degli. Again. Consiglio. Again. Giglio. By the end of this R, you're going to be very good at pronouncing this sound. So, this was all for the pronunciation notes. As you can see, it's not the easiest aria to pronounce, admittedly, but it's very good practice. And it's very good rhetorical practice as well. Because if you don't understand, it's not convincing. It's just not. So, let's read from the beginning one last time, slowly, with meaning and impeccable pronunciation. Se tu m'ami, se tu sospiri, sol per me, gentil pastor, ho dolor dei tuoi martiri, ho diletto del tuo amor, ma se pensi che soletto io ti debba riamar, pastorello, sei soggetto facilmente a t'ingannar. Bella rosa porporina, oggi Silvia sceglierà, con la scusa della spina, doman poi la sprezzerà. Ma degli uomini il consiglio io per me non seguirò, non perché mi piace il giglio, gli altri fiori sprezzerò. And if you want to suffer a little bit, try the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, the last 7 lines here. Because you have difficult combinations one after the other. So, oggi, okay, Silvia sceglierà. So, Silvia sceglierà con la scusa della spina, doman poi la sprezzerà, ma degli uomini il consiglio, So it's very good practice here. Io per me non seguirò, non perché mi piace il giglio, gli altri fiori sprezzerò. By the way, it's not gli altri fiori. Gli altri. It turns into a single sound. Gli altri. So, that is it for Se tu m'ami, se sospiri. Another incredibly beautiful piece, and again, no wonder it's a classic. This is it for this video. Now, this video is part of a short 10 video series I'm making on the 10 arias and songs I've analysed in my booklet, which you can find in the description down below. This, however, is only the starting point. If you want to take your Italian seriously as you take your singing, then check out my website, linked down below, and you can check out what I offer. I offer one-to-one services, custom made. There's no, tailor-made. There's no cookie cutter method. It just doesn't work. It's all one-to-one. We look at what you need, what your experience with the language is, and what your aspiration, what your desires are. So if you're interested, check down below, get in touch, and see you next time.